What do we know, everybody? Got new glasses. Had the old ones for 3+ years, I think. They've been broken, scratched up, buggered up, been glued together and taped together more times than I can count. So it was long, long overdue. And I'm very happy with these. Very, very grateful that I got them. I got them just a couple of days ago. So thank goodness. Thank goodness. But here over the past few weeks, I've been looking back over my life and thinking how crazy life is. And it's kind of crazy to think about it. And looking back at my life and seeing how I've changed over the years, this way, that way, whatever. It's crazy. And even looking back at my progression over these YouTube videos, looking at the very first ones I did, I'm talking about anxiety and all this other stuff. If you look at how I looked back then and how I talked and how I sounded, it's crazy. Because I'm not like that now. I mean, I don't talk like that, I don't sound like that. And even when you're looking at my bull hauling videos, I look different, sound different than I do now and I did back then. It's crazy. But if you look back, even just as far as when I started making these YouTube videos, you'll see that I was doing better with my anxiety, but it wasn't great. There was still a lot of stuff going on, but I wasn't great. I mean, I was at a point in my life where I didn't know what the future would hold. And I'd worked for a couple of really great people. I was a butcher. Hands down, the best job I've ever had. Hands down, my favorite thing I've ever done in my adult life as far as work is concerned. And it was wonderful. We had an open air meat counter, full service meat counter. You walk up, I'd cut you a steak to order. I had the knowledge to tell you where everything came from and how it was done, how it was prepared, how you should prepare it. And I was cool with a knife, and I had a lot of knowledge. It was great. I had customers that loved me not only from my town, but from towns away, from states away even. It was wonderful. But when those wonderful people floated the couple from California, my anxiety problems set in, and everything really got miserable. I mean, from my anxiety problems to the depression and everything that came with that, to how they were treating us and the customers. I mean, it got to the point that I couldn't handle it anymore. I knew that I still wanted to be a butcher, but I couldn't handle this. So I jumped ship to the competition. And I did it for my mental health. I mean, that was it. And credit to these people, I took a cut in pay going over there, but the owners of that place treated me phenomenally. It took me like a week, I think it was, maybe a week or two before they bumped me back up to what I was making before. They treated me great. They really did. They had their meat cutter there had been doing it 20 some odd years, and he, honest to goodness, is one of the worst I've seen. He was lazy. He didn't care about what he did. Everything was slapped together. He didn't clean anything. It was disgusting. There was no quality and no quality control. So him and I butted heads a lot. He didn't like I was doing things better than him, quicker than him. He didn't like people who come in and ask for me. But that's fine. I didn't have to worry about that because the owners, they treated me great. They understood the situation. It was what it was. Well, 2 days before we were supposed to get everything back, before everything was going to go back to old management at the original place, the people from California sold out to the competition that I was working for what they owed. And the competition assumed all the debts they had, and it was what it was. It was business. I understood that then. I understand that now. but it still crushed me. I mean, for once in my life, I thought everything was going to work out, and it just kind of got ripped away. And it was a husband and wife that owned the competition I was working for. And he was just kind of amazed that I handed him my key. It was the principle of it for me. I couldn't do it. After knowing what happened and how it happened, I just couldn't do it. So I wandered around over the coming weeks and tried to figure out what it is that I was going to do. I typed up a resume, cover letter, and I went around to every place that I could think of in the state of Nebraska. And I was always met with the same thing. You know, you're either overqualified for what we do here, or we just can't afford to hire anybody else. And I was just amazed when I went to so many places and I got one of those two responses everywhere that I went. And I was always told that if you work really hard and you do your best to be the best at something, you'll never have trouble finding a job. And here I was, jobless, where I worked so hard to be the best and I had nothing to show for it. I mean, after working for those wonderful people and learning how to be a butcher and doing what I did and studying like I did, standing in at the different places, watching everything from whole breakdowns to really custom specialty stuff to dry aging to just everything. And just wanting that. Just wanting to do that. And just having it all ripped away. I was crushed. And the one thought that was going through my head was, I gotta get away. That I don't want to work in a manufacturing plant and be one of those people. I didn't want to do it. People that are a slave to the clock and are working for a paycheck and a beer at the end of the week. I didn't want to be that person. To give up on my hopes and dreams and everything that I had. So I decided I was going to drive a truck. Uncle drove truck, and I had a good basic understanding of what the industry was like and figured I could do this and see what I can do from there. So when I started making YouTube videos, I had moved out of my little one-bedroom place and was staying at my grandma's house until I could go to truck driving school. My anxiety was getting better. It still wasn't great. It wasn't anywhere near as good as it is now. And believe me, I still suffer. But there was a lot going on in my mind right then, too. I was so nervous and scared. I mean, I'm from a town of 1,100 people in the middle of nowhere. I've seen interstate maybe twice in my life. I didn't do well with big cities. It was just a lot, and throw your anxiety problems on top of it. It was rough, and just the unknowns were really, really rough. And I went to school. The first couple of days there were a little bit rough, but I had told myself that I'm going to open up. That I'm professionally sociable. Where I see people in public, I can have a conversation. If I'm dealing with customers face to face, I can have a great conversation, and it works wonderfully. But I'm not a really sociable person. I'm more of an introvert. Social anxiety, whatever you want to call it, I clam up and I stay quiet, and it is what it is. But I told myself that, you know what, man, you're going to open up. You're going to try to make friends. You know, this is a new chapter in your life. You're going to try to do something different. And by the end of that program in Norfolk, I did good. I was proud of myself. Fast forward orientation. When I went over to Tulsa, Oklahoma, it was a lot different too. Riding on the bus for the first time, trying to figure that out was terrifying. You know, small town boy from the middle of nowhere, and the anxiety problems on top of it, it was not easy. It was not easy at all. But I got there. I figured out how to get in the hotel room. I figured out how to do this stuff in the morning, how to get on the bus, how to go to this place for orientation. And I worked my tail off through the whole thing, and I was scared the whole time. I was terrified the whole time that I was going to get sent home, that I wasn't going to be good enough. And I got out of orientation, and I was the first one to get in the trainer truck. My trainer, Frankie, great dude. Talked to him till today. He's a great guy. He's retired now. I couldn't have asked for a better trainer. But watching my progression from when I got into my own truck and dealing with the hardships that I dealt with at that first company, and then moving forward and seeing how I changed as I was driving a truck, it was a crazy transition for me. Because I was always the nice, polite guy. I have a professional conversation. I try to watch my language in front of people. And driving a truck, it's a lot different. You got guys dropping the F-bomb all the time. You got guys cussing up a storm all the time. Guys are dealing with an insane amount of stress. And then you're stressed yourself, you know, especially like if you're on e-logs, trying to find places to park and trying to deal with people in an office that have never been in a truck trying to tell you how to do your job, and then shippers, consignees, and everything else. It was horrible. I mean, I worked my tail off to get through it, and I didn't notice it so much then because that was the life. I worked so hard at this that I put everything into it. And when I left flatbed to pull bull rack, it changed again. Because now I wasn't really dealing with shippers and consignees and that front office had never been in a truck. When I'm pulling bull rack, I'm dealing with guys who've driven a truck and have hauled cattle. But I've got other issues to deal with. I got equipment that isn't always up to snuff. You know, I'm running overweight and I'm running over hours. I'm always running tired. And that is what it is. I mean, that I could have put a stop to that part anytime I wanted to, but that was my choice. I mean, they would force you into some of it, but it is what it is. You know what you're getting into when you're pulling bull rack. So your mind's always racing a million miles a minute trying to plan everything out and trying to get everything just right so that you can get your cattle off, get to the next pickup, figure out where you're going to fuel, where you're going to sleep, what you're going to eat, if you're going to eat, and trying to do everything that you can so you can get home for a day on the weekend. It was a fast-paced life, and it's probably not the right word for it, but kind of an aggressive life. You know, you got to have a thick skin and you got to be aggressive to get ahead. If you're passive when you're doing stuff like that, especially pulling bull rack, you're not going to get too far. But when I came off the road and I started working for the farmer, and I kind of got, and it's taken a long time. I mean, it sounds crazy, but it's taken a long time to transition from trucking Jim to farmer Jim. When you're used to go, go, go and being away from home and having a crazy irregular schedule and doing that for so long, it's hard to really get back into a regular, normal life. And now that I got time where I'm not thinking about the next load and worrying about this, that, and the other, where I don't have to worry about a truck breaking down or issues on the road where I'm 1,000 miles from home. You're worried about making it home on time for something going on. I got time to think about other things. And it's nuts to really think about how quiet, polite Jim, who dressed in black, who would wear a suit and tie when he needed to and had a poor boy hat or his regular black backwards hat. Black's my favorite color. I love black. I wore black everything that I could. And change your music based on your mood. Some days it was death metal, some days it was old country, some days it was folk music, some days it was Sinatra. And you didn't really do that in a truck because you're listening to music to keep you awake. And it was just a different thing. But able to slow everything down now and to see who I was and who I am versus who I had to be. And we are creations of our environment. It's nuts. If you send your child over to his friend's house and his friend is a rowdy child that doesn't behave, your child's going to come back and try to act the same way, right? You send him over to Billy's house, and Billy is a nice, polite kid and does everything for his mama and his daddy. Picks up his toys and does all this stuff. Your child's going to follow suit, right? We're the same way as adults. You get around certain groups of people, you're going to start acting like them, especially if they're all acting like that. And you kind of keep some of your own qualities, and you try to get together and stay close with people that are kind of like you, but you all kind of lose yourselves, right? So here's what I know. After introspection, looking back at my life, everything I've been through, from working as a butcher, loving my job, to being treated poorly with the California couple, to having to jump ship, to having everything ripped away from me, to having everybody turn me down for a job for one of two reasons, to driving a truck and going through everything that I've gone through there, to meeting my lovely wife, which is something that I never thought would happen. Looking back, when I was making those videos, when I was looking at my future, I never thought. I always hoped, but I never honestly thought that I'd be able to get married, let alone have a wonderful little baby boy. Just that thought that I wasn't good enough and I wasn't going to try anymore. That if it happened, it happened, but I wasn't going to put myself out there. I was going to be the best darn uncle that anybody had ever seen. But I never thought it would be possible. But going through all of that, meeting my wife, falling in love with her, getting married, passing my grandmother in that time, having my little boy, being able to come off the road and do this, and being able to look at my life, I know that I love being home with my family. I love my family. On days that I go to work and work isn't great, Or let's take yesterday and today, for example. Yesterday it was wind chill and negative, close to negative 50. And fighting, trying to get a feed truck started for a good 3 hours in the morning. And being out there just cold and miserable, and being cold and miserable today. I mean, when I go through days where things aren't great, I know that I'm able to come home to my family, and it makes everything better. So I know that I love my family. I know that if I could do any job, that I'd be a butcher. You know, there's things out there, butchers are backed up, but you know, it's kind of a crazy thing where I function better in two scenarios, two situations. I function better when I'm left to my own devices, when I'm the guy just doing my own thing and I don't have people looking over my shoulder, or when I'm not trying to compete with other people. And I do better when I'm working for a small outfit, kind of working hand in hand with the owner of the company. You know, and maybe in the cards, maybe I'll be able to start my own butcher shop later in life. I mean, that was always my dream ever since I started working for that wonderful couple. You know, maybe I'll start with a mobile butchering thing, put money away till I can do my own thing. I don't know. That's for the future. I don't know what the future holds. But life is crazy, because I never would have thought years ago when I started, or when everything went to pot there with the California couple, I never would have thought that this is where I would be right now. I never thought that I'd be living where I'm at, doing what I'm doing. I never would have thought that I'd be married and have a wonderful little baby boy, a wonderful wife. I never would have thunk it. But here I am. You know, while there may be a lot of things in my life that aren't great and that I'd change, one thing that will never change is my family. This right here, my wife and my baby, this is what I live for. This is what I work for. So those other dreams as far as work and whatnot, if they're meant to happen, they'll happen. You know, keep working towards it and doing what you're doing, but if in the end it don't, then it don't. But at least I still got my family. You know, I'm still finding myself doing my thing. Still trying to figure out who I am and things that I enjoy. And, you know, after a year, a little more than a year after being out of the truck, I'm kind of realizing that, hey, I can have hobbies. You know, I can have things that I enjoy. That not everything has to be centered around work and paying bills. That you can relax from time to time. And I'll tell you how relaxing it is and how fun it is to be able to come home, play with little boy till it's bedtime, be able to bake something in the kitchen, you know, make stuff from scratch, cook, be able to sit and talk with my wife and play games, and even just go drive around. You know, I'm still a ball of stress and a ball of anxiety and depression and all that good stuff, but you know what? I have a pretty good life. You know, it's not a Christmas movie life. You know, they're not going to sell any books about it, but still a good life. And a whole lot better of a life than I ever thought that I'd have. But anyway, guys, I've rambled on for 25 minutes or so. So I'm going to cut it off here. If you stayed to the end, I thank you. You deserve a cookie. And like I say, I enjoy rambling, making these videos. Hopefully you found it a little bit entertaining, listening to this story. But at any rate, guys, as always, I thank you all for watching.